Welcome to Onboard For Delivery, the show that delivers laughs, reviews, tech news and debates. Join your hosts, Timothy J. Jeffrey and Paul Samuel James, on the nerd fest that is Onboard For Delivery.
3, 2, 1.
Hello, wonderful people, and welcome to Onboard For Delivery. I'm your host, Paul Samuel James, and I'm here with co-host Timothy J. Jeffrey. On tonight's episode, we're talking about Are We Done? We have had a long journey of buying products and buying, in fact, just about everything that you could think of for a camera. And today we're talking about Are we done, or is there more on the horizon? Tim, are you done?
Well, I thought I was done at the start of this week, and as the week's gone on, there's a few items that are starting to get some legs, if you know what I mean. A few items that a week ago I wasn't even thinking about, and now I'm like, I really need that monitor for my camera for when I use the gimbal, and I now want a monopod for some reason. There's probably a few other things I've got. I ended up buying a Lazy Susan during the week, would you believe, so I can spin objects around for B-roll footage. Every cameraman worth their salt has a Lazy Susan, Tim. Yeah, exactly. Well, it will double as a Thanksgiving or Christmas lunch chicken spin around thing too. But yeah, I don't know. I just started watching videos on YouTube, and then next thing you're like, I need to have that in my life. And so I ordered a Lazy Susan. So yeah, there's so many things I want.
How many purchases have you bought, Tim, that have started with one YouTube video? That's where it starts. Then YouTube suggests other videos, so you watch those videos, and then you watch all these professionals that have all this equipment, and they get such good results, and we're like, easy, we'll do that. So we go and buy it, and our results somewhat differ than the professionals. Why is that?
Well, half the time you buy things and you just don't use them. You take it out of the box. I mean, the week you wait for it, you're just waiting for the delivery man, the Star Trek Santa, and then finally he arrives, and you're so excited, you run to the door, and then you get the product, you open it. Sometimes you don't even get it out of the box. You think, I'll just let that sit there for a while, and then you get it out of the box. You probably test it for like 5 minutes, and then you just put it away, and yeah, you don't end up using it. So
I think I've noticed that most of the things that I've bought for the camera and the computer, this is hilarious. Most of the stuff I've bought for testing, just to test it. So I don't even use it. I get it. Oh yeah, that light looks really good. That's good. I'll turn that off and I'll turn that back on, in a few years' time, or I'll probably sell it because I won't use it. And then I go and get, today I received a reflector and diffuser kit, which I bought from Amazon, and I literally opened it up. I attached it to the tripod, the light, the light housing, and had a look at it and thought, oh yeah, that's good. And then I folded it back up, and then it's gone. Now it's in the cupboard, probably to never come out again.
Yeah,
I've got so many things in the cupboard like that.
Yeah, it's funny, and then somewhere down the track you end up having a problem, and you're like, oh, if only I could reflect the light from this angle, and hang on, I bought a reflector. And so they do come in handy down the track, just all these random things that you buy, but you have this expectation that you'll start using it straight away, and it's going to change.
Yeah.
You need it that week. So this always happens to me, Paul. I don't know about you, but every time I order something, let's say I order it on a Monday or a Sunday night, I have an expectation that I'll get it that week. That's the reality in Australia. You hear about America with Amazon, same day delivery and things like that. In Australia, it's same week delivery if you're lucky. So, and you have no idea when it's going to arrive. It could arrive Tuesday, it could arrive Thursday, it could arrive Friday. And if you miss out on Friday, it's not till Monday. But I always have to have it for that particular weekend. So I'm always calling up the suppliers and the Star Trek or whatnot, saying, look, I need this. I've got a project this weekend. I need the product. It's so vital. It's critical that I have it this weekend. And and never end up using it. I test it for 5 minutes and then I feel
Back
just
in the
relieved.
cupboard.
Yeah, so
As long as you know it's safe, though. You know, when it's, I find when you buy things online and they're in the delivery driver's hand or they're in the warehouse, you're always thinking, oh, some bloke's just kicked it. You know, he's sitting on it for his lunch break. He's just, it's sitting out in the wet and the wind and it's getting damaged. And you start to concoct all these stories about what's happening to your package that you've paid for. Because once you've paid for it, it's yours. You own it. It's on its way. It's not someone else's. It's yours. And that feeling of just sadness that you get knowing that it's on its way, but the joy that you get when it's on board for delivery, and that excitement you get when you receive it, it's almost more exciting than the product itself. Would you agree?
absolutely, yeah. No, it's almost an addiction. You know, you order a product, and we're now at the stage where we start ordering the next product before the last one's even arrived. So we've just got this constant churning of products delivering, and you get that, it's probably some sort of chemical that gets released in the brain, oxytocin. You know, some people like romantic comedies. Some people like, cuddles and affection. I like Star Trek. I just like the Star Trek delivery driver. Like, that sounds a bit weird, but the delivery is so exciting when you hear that truck arrive and the door knock and you race to the door, you put your... whatever you're doing, you put it down and you run straight to the door. So it's really exciting. So Paul, so this week's been a big week with cameras. I know we've both been exploring the different functions of the cameras that we've bought, the Sony A6400. So from your point of view, like, what have you been discovering this week when it comes to your camera?
Well, the first thing I've been discovering is the fact that I know nothing about cameras. That's the first thing. We'll put that out there right now. But I am learning from every mistake that I'm making. But the main thing I'm learning, to be honest, is lighting is critical when it comes to taking good photos, and having the right settings for the right, rewind 6 months ago, and I would have thought that you take a camera, you point it, you shoot it, and it will take a good photo. It'll just base it on, everything that's going on. But what I wasn't aware of is that, the camera angle is important. Having the right lens for the right, the right application, having the right settings for that lens, for that application, and the lighting and the placement is so important. And I would go out there today and take 100 photos, and I'd be so excited to get home, and I'd plug my camera in, and it's that feeling of elation again. And then there's 3 photos that are any good. 97 of them are just, they're blurry, they're focused in the wrong spot, they're not sharp. It's very easy to blame the camera, but it's a user error. I'm making the mistakes myself, but I'm learning from those mistakes and fixing them for next time. But I mean, this week has been more about video for me, so I haven't taken that many photos. I've been popping the A6400 onto my Ronin SC gimbal, and it's all been about the video and editing process and slowing the motion down and getting some real cinematic, video footage. And I'm just having a great time. I'm having so much fun getting out there with the kids and just recording. Like the kids, it's almost like They think I'm treating them like a slave, do this, do that, have this look, smile at the camera, this angle, try this, try that. And you can see they're doing it, but they're kind of annoyed they're doing it. But it makes for good footage in the end. But that's what I've noticed this week. It's been mainly video and just loving the camera. I think it's got some great features. I just don't know how to use them properly just yet.
Yeah, it's a very glamorous...
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a very glamorous expectation from the kids. They think that you just they just run out and you just chase them around, take photos naturally, and then all of a sudden, you get some great photos. But the reality is, you've got to set them up in the right position and get the lighting right, and then redo the shoots when it doesn't work out. So I did a thing with my daughter the other night. We went into the front yard, and I just did some circle work around her, because the sky was looking really pretty, And she was getting a bit annoyed because she wanted to go back inside and play on her iPad with her friends. And I said, look, just 2 minutes. So we went around, we got all the great footage, went inside, I loaded it up onto Premiere, and I had my shutter speed wrong for the slow motion, and it was just really jerky footage. It was unusable, terrible. So I had to go back to her and say, can we go back out again and reshoot that thing we just did?
Oh, nothing worse.
And,
I bet she gave you the death stare.
She was pretty annoyed. The only reason I got her to go out was her iPad was flat, and she thought it was a good opportunity to let the iPad charge. So I had a window. I had a 5-minute window. So we got some pretty nice footage. The light was just amazing. Just the twilight, and using the Sigma lenses that we've got, the f1.4, I use the 30mm lens. It just looks so beautiful in the light. I'm like, wow, I just love doing this. It's so much fun. And my daughter was, I basically presented to her the footage and said, what do you think? And she turned it down because she didn't like the way the font I had at the start, Flower Productions. She wanted it to be called Flower Productions. And she wanted it to like zoom in and out, and I wanted it to be like nice and cinematic. And I just made it. Yeah. I made it very subtle, and she just didn't like that. So I had to re-upload it and do it again. But I just had so much fun this week with the camera and the lens. But I discovered I haven't even taken any photos with this camera. It's just been video. So,
well, that you can save the photos for your second camera, Tim, that you also have.
Well, I've got the two cameras. And I've got two cameras now. I've got the Sony and the Canon. The Canon's quite old, but it still takes great photos. But it's taking a back seat at the moment because I'm really learning and really enjoying the video, the slow-mo, the fast lenses that I've got with the Sony. So
it's good, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for our everyone's favourite segment, Tim. Questions only. I know everyone's writing in saying how much they love this segment, so I thought we'll just kick off with a bit of questions only. So for those of you who don't know, we'll start off by asking questions, and we can only ask questions about a topic, and we're not allowed to do anything else other than ask questions. So our topic tonight will be cameras. So I'll start with saying, are you ready?
Do I look like I'm ready?
Do you like your Sony camera?
Well, do you think I like it as much as my Canon?
Do you like the settings that it has?
What are the settings you're referring to?
Well, what's your favourite lens?
How many is there to choose from?
Do you prefer the Sony or the Canon?
What do you think?
What lens do you have on it now?
You've got me on that one. This is the hardest game in the world. I always have is the Pope Catholic as my backup question, but I couldn't really use that on that last question. So
that's okay. That was a good little segment though. You did pretty well.
That was a great segment. So yeah, we're literally inundated this week with requests for that segment, and I think next week we should expect the same after that. After that first effort. So
yeah, I think so too.
All right. So Paul, what's getting legs for you at the moment? What are the products that are starting to rummage around in your wallet and just, what's getting legs? What do you think? What do you want to buy next? What are you trying to fight against? What's next on your purchasing cart?
I find that things get legs very quickly in this household, and it doesn't take much for any situation to get legs. But I would say for me at the moment, the main thing is a 56mm Sigma lens for portraits and things like that. The only reason it hasn't got as many legs as a Centipede, for example, is purely because I already have a 30 and a 16mm. And between the two of them, they're very sufficient. But I will eventually expand to a 56. That is definitely on the horizon. And the second thing that's got legs is a star tracker. So for astrophotography, which I want to get into, it's important that you need to do a slow shutter speed in order to get the maximum color and lighting from the stars. But the slow shutter speed, the stars and Earth revolves around the sun. So if the camera is not moving at the same time, the stars are orbiting, so to speak, the photos will be blurry. So the star tracker is something that you attach to the tripod, and then you attach your camera to that, and it actually follows the stars as they go, which causes brilliant photography. So that's got legs at the moment, but they're very hard to come by. Due to the current situation, everything seems to be hard to come by at the moment. So that'll be put on the back burner for a bit of a long time. But they're definitely the two things that have got legs in this place. What's got legs for you, have you found?
Yeah, well, for me, it's really a monitor. So a small monitor to put on the camera, particularly when I'm using the gimbal, because I'm finding with the gimbal, I just cannot see what I'm looking at. And you really want to have the camera balanced with the screen in a certain position. I just like to keep the screen flat on the back of my camera. But pretty much 90% of the time, I can't really see what I'm looking at. So I really need a monitor, probably a 5 or 6 inch monitor, and stick it on the gimbal. So I'm starting to look at those. I haven't done any real serious research. I just need something basic, and it always starts off like that. So that's
Does that attach to your camera via HDMI cable?
It does.
Or does it attach to the gimbal and then the gimbal attaches to the camera?
No, it's via HDMI directly to the camera, and you can buy very lightweight HDMI cables, so it won't really weigh down the camera.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah,
but the motors on the gimbal should be strong enough to keep the camera level, but you don't want a heavy cable. So you can get one. You can get either the curly cables or just a real lightweight one. So I'll have to look up those as well. So that'll be the next thing, because I'm really loving the gimbal for slow-mo work. Apart from that, I'd like to do a bit of photography. I know that's not actually a purchasing decision, but I'd really like to do something with multiple exposures. So when you see people do landscapes or even night photography, and they might take 3, maybe even 5 different photos with different exposures, then they blend them together in Photoshop or Lightroom. So I've never done that ever. And to me, it fascinates me that you can do that, because it really expands the dynamic range of the camera to impossible levels. So I'd love to have a go at that. I'd love to do it for indoor, like real estate type photos. So you can have a photo where you can actually see through the windows and everything's exposed correctly, but the inside is exposed as well. And also for landscapes. So so those are the two things I'd like to do. Look at a monitor and look into photography, which I've barely done on the camera so far. So
well, there you go. So look, Tim, I just got a message come through for another segment that people wanted to see, and it's called One Thing, and it's where we talk about one thing. Now, what I'd like to know is, what is one thing that you wish the Sony did that it doesn't, or one thing that you wish you could change on the Sony A6400 that would make it a better camera?
That's a really good question. I'm really satisfied with the A6400. It is an APS-C size sensor. It's not full frame, but to be honest, when you add one of the Sigma lenses to it, like the f1.4, you're getting very, very close to any kind of full frame footage, and I reckon 99% of people can't tell the difference. So I'm so happy with it. The video performance is so great. It does all the fast frame rates. 60 frames a second, 120 frames a second. It does 4K, and I haven't even shot in 4K yet, but it only does 4K 30 frames, so it doesn't do 60. So in order to get 4K 60, you need to buy one of the latest cameras like the A7S3 or Canon R5. But I never shoot at that resolution anyway at the moment, so I'm not really wanting that. It's a real tough...
4K is not really Australian internet friendly.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. It takes forever to upload those sort of things, and it's just, you'd never shoot in 4K purely for that reason.
That's a really, really good point. And I mean, you can always shoot in 4K and then downsample it, or you can crop in and all that sort of stuff, but I'd rather smaller file sizes. So honestly, there's not much it doesn't do. So the camera itself, honestly can't think of anything. All I can think of maybe a better screen, but I'm going to use an external monitor anyway. So
yeah, the screen is one thing that when I saw your Canon camera, and I love the screen on the Canon, and that was one thing that the Sony was doing that I wasn't too satisfied with, but the price point, the features, the reviews, everything about it outweighed that. I don't care anymore. It's one of those things that you care before you buy it, but once you get it, it doesn't matter anymore. And I've got an external monitor on my camera anyway, so I hardly look at the screen, to be honest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my answer is I'm pretty satisfied with the A6400. I wouldn't hesitate to recommend it to anyone, especially with the Sigma prime lenses. They are just beautiful. So for you, what's the one thing that you wish the camera had, or some of the audio equipment had, or what's the one thing that you're wishing for at the moment?
Yeah, the one thing that I would like to see in the next edition of the A6400, whatever that might be, the A6400S, whatever the new model would be to have IBIS or some sort of image stabilization built in. And the only reason I say that is because to record good video, you need to use a gimbal, which is fine. I'm using a gimbal every day. I carry it with me, but occasionally I'd love to go for a walk with the kids, carry my camera, not have a gimbal with me, and still be able to get, those quick, get the camera out, those sort of shots, which I can't really do with any kind of success. So that would be the only thing. However, it's not a deal breaker that it hasn't got that now, but if I could change one thing, it would be to have image stabilization like the Panasonic Lumix that was recommended to me to buy, and I went against those recommendations and bought the Sony. Couldn't be happier, but if I could make a change, it would just be the IBIS, the image stabilization.
Yep. In fact, I forgot that's actually my answer. Yeah, that's the one thing I do wish it had, and mainly for gimbal work. And I know some people might think, oh, that's a bit strange because the gimbal does all the stabilization. Yeah. But there's still, especially when you have a more telephoto lens on an APS-C sensor, if you're not using slow motion, if we use the gimbal in 24 frames a second, there's still some micro movement and it's just not quite perfectly smooth. And whenever we see cameras that have IBIS or some sort of lens stabilization added as well, it just, if it's calibrated correctly, it does a great job. So I've actually heard the new Canon R5 it sounds like it's got a really good IBIS system, even better than Sony. Okay. The problem with Sony is the E-mount that's shared by the APS-C cameras is very tight. So if you look at a picture of one of the Sony full-frame cameras and look at the E-mount over the top of it, there's not much room. So basically the mini gimbal, like inside the IBIS itself, there's not much room for it to move. So that's a limitation of the Sonys that we'll probably have to live with for forever. But I actually heard there's some new technology around. I think it's in the Sony or the Canon, and what it does is it actually records gyroscopic data. So then when you go into post, you can actually use that data to help help with the stabilization. So that could be a great feature that we see on lower end cameras in the future.
Sorry, Tim, I just fell asleep when you started talking about gyroscopic data. What on earth is that? I've never heard that in my life.
Yeah, so it's I know we're getting a bit technical here, and we're speaking out of turn. Okay. We don't really know what we're talking about, but
well, I don't know what you're talking about, but you do, and that's all that matters. It sounds good though.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you reckon, Paul? That's we've had a pretty good discussion today. Is there any more letters we've had from people writing in asking for more segments, or
no? I think we're done.
Are you done?
I think we're done.
We're never done, but maybe we're done for today's podcast.
Yeah, we're done. We'll be back in 5 minutes for another one, probably. Yeah. But no, that's it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the ride, and it should be fun.
Cool. So until next time, we'll catch you later, folks. So good night.